Welcome, everybody, to the Digital Nomad Experts podcast by Beach Commute. Today, we've got a really exciting topic that Marissa and I are super excited to talk about. It's the 3 reasons you haven't found a digital nomad job yet. This is the whole reason why we have Beach Commute. We are super passionate about getting people remote jobs that let them travel anywhere in the world. This is something that the 3 of us, me, Marissa, and Diego, have been doing for I don't know how many, Diego's whole life. Right?
Yeah,
You've been doing it for a very long time.
You mean traveling.
Traveling and working.
Traveling while working, yes.
Yeah. He's evolved into this, but he has...
He's nomad
he's been
forever.
Kind of lived on an airplane his entire life. But because it's so near and dear to us, we want to help people do the same thing that we're doing, because it's honestly, having seen both sides of the fence, going into the cubicle every day and then completely abandoning that and going on a new airplane every month. This is, I would say, in my opinion, objectively a better way of living life. And we want to see people doing this. In my opinion, it is right.
We love the digital nomad life. We love the freedom to travel. And we want you to have it too. And we know it's possible. So it is what we are. You can hear it in our voices, always, our energy. Like we just want everyone in the world to be able to live this lifestyle. And you're no different. So.
But it's very difficult. And that's what we're going to talk about here today. It's very, very difficult to actually find those jobs that let you travel. Otherwise, people will just hop on a job board, pick up a job, and just get on a plane the next day.
Very true.
Yeah, and maybe starting this Beach Commute company, we thought, okay, just get a remote job, and we're just going to teach people how to be digital nomads. But as we've seen and worked with our audience and had all this feedback through people, we realize it is not that. When you go through these job boards, you're going to run into a lot of problems. And we want to talk about some of those problems and how we help solve those problems. So, Marissa, I'm going to lean on you a little bit more because you are deep into this as a career coach of many, many years. Very, very familiar with these problems, very familiar on how to solve these problems. So I'm just going to kick it to you. You've come up with the 3 main reasons why people aren't finding these remote jobs. And let's just banter a little bit about it. I'm going to ask you a few questions as you go through them. But let's unpack what those reasons are.
Yeah. So again, this is the 3 reasons you haven't found a digital nomad job yet. So there's a lot with mindset of first, like, I'm not even going to use this as number 1, but like, you've got to believe it's possible for you, right? You've got to take the leap to say, oh, that person's doing it, I can do it too. Once we've gotten beyond that, and I've talked about that time and time again. So just to kind of lay the lay of the land before we even jump into these 3, if you are listening, it is possible to get a remote job that lets you travel, like plain and simple. I want you to know that in your bones and believe it as we talk about it. So once you believe that and you're saying, okay, I can do it, there's 3 main obstacles that I have found prevent you from actually finding a remote job that you enjoy, that you want to do while you travel, that'll let you afford your lifestyle and all those things. So the first problem that so many of you encounter, and you've told us this time and time and time again, I've worked with this with my clients for so many years, is that you go on LinkedIn, you go on even the remote job boards that we've talked about that exist that say, like, these are for digital nomads, or these are fully remote. These are only remote jobs, and LinkedIn will do the same. Companies trick you, and it's not true. So while I do believe that LinkedIn, let's say, and these job boards have the best intentions, let's pretend for a second that they do, they are torturous because you'll often go on, and when you look, it'll say like remote job, remote company, remote listing, and you're like, yes, I found the perfect remote job. And then you go on and look, and it says remote from home, remote from this state only, remote, if you're lucky, from anywhere in your country. But it's really hard for you to find a remote job that actually genuinely, truly gives you like full permission. It gives me goosebumps because we're so passionate about this, to travel the world while you work. So to find that employer who says, Joe, Jeff, Amanda, whoever, you can work from Timbuktu, Australia, or you're home visiting your grandmother. I don't care if you get your work done. We literally couldn't care less where you are. There's a lot to unpack with this, but Jeff, any just initial thoughts on this number one?
I think this is really, really crucial for those of you going through LinkedIn because it's so easy to get fooled, as Marissa was saying. When you go up to the top search bar, you'll search for a field, and then right next to it, it'll be location, another field for location. You can click on-site, hybrid, or remote. You'll check remote. And everything that you see after that, you would assume would be fully remote jobs.
Yeah.
And like you said, a lot of times it'll say in parentheses, only in California,
right.
or it'll be only US based, or it won't say anything. You click through to the job posting, and then deep into the job posting, it'll mention it. Or you get to the interview process and you find out the company.
We have had a lot of people say that as well. They get through the interview and then they're like, and then they told me it wasn't actually fully remote. And it's like, it's like catfishing. Companies are catfishing you.
And that's where I take an issue with it because it is 100%
Jeff
a bait
has personal
and switch.
issues.
They're doing it intentional because they want to attract the top talent, and the top talent wants to be able to work wherever they want in the world. And when they're doing this, they know that they're going to attract that talent, and then once they get them in the door, you've already got somewhat of a commitment, and they're kind of already hooked, and they might just say, "Oh, okay, well, I'll sacrifice." But there's plenty of companies out there that you don't have to sacrifice that for.
Exactly. And if they're not catfishing, some of them, let's just pretend they have good intentions again for a second, but there are a lot of companies that don't understand logistically how to let you do this yet. They're just kind of behind the times, I think, in this way. So a lot of employers will push back and they'll say, it doesn't work for us for tax, obligations. We're going to have to pay taxes for you all over the world, or we don't know how to do your 401k or whatever it is. And this is kind of a little US specific, but this works even, globally for wherever that company is, because they're just not, to me, I'm like, they're just not evolved enough yet to understand that as long as someone has a home address, a home base that is in that state or country or place that they, need to say they are for tax reasons, you can travel anywhere as long as you are following different visa rules, different tax rules. We've talked some about that throughout the podcast, but a lot of companies won't let you because they haven't figured out how to do this yet. So even if they wanted to, that's a lot of the reason why they're saying stay in California, stay in Georgia, stay in the US, or stay in Germany, or wherever it might be.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point. And maybe I need to give a little bit of rope to some of these companies, and instead of just assuming that they're out for
evil
for bad reasons. But let's also talk about because I've tried to find some of these remote jobs. I've been curious just to see what it looks like out there in the wild, because I want to experience it through our audience's eyes and see what things look like. And as I go through these job listings, just going through it exactly the way that you would go through it, exactly the way that I would go through it. Set it to remote listing, right? Set a vague-ish industry that I'm in, marketing, XYZ. And as I go through these listings, there's two other issues that I run into that are really, really important. One is that the majority of listings that I'm finding, well, let's just say anywhere based on the search that I'm doing, between 25 to 75% of the listings are headhunters. So it's not even the company that I'm talking to. It's a company recruiting for the company. So and that itself is problematic. So I want to unpack that a little bit. And then the second thing is that a lot of times these companies are it's a little bit vague of whether or not it's actually a decent company. I don't want to
not quality jobs.
I don't want to say the bad companies by any means, but a lot of times you'll click
but
through,
we're saying
click through, and then you'd be like, oh, this is a 2-person company, and they may have no revenue, and I don't know what the job security looks like in that.
Yeah.
Or I go and you have to go 3 clicks deep to read about what the company actually does, and that can be a whole process into itself, and you finally get to a website 15 minutes later, you read, this is a bad company, I don't want to apply for it.
There's bad reviews. People have said, I've worked here, it's terrible, it's a terrible culture, or it's just, it's feels sketchy. Your kind of spidey senses go off, and you're like, something is off with this. posting, with this listing, like, is it legitimate?
100%.
So those are huge. And I think that's why a lot of those job boards and a lot of time, those hours you might spend on LinkedIn are not helpful, because you might be seeing, it's almost like, it's like fool's gold. It's like you go and you're like, oh my gosh, there's 5,000 remote jobs hiring right now in this industry. And if you were to actually go through, almost none of them are what you're actually looking for, because either they're not fully remote that let you travel, they are like small companies that you don't feel like you would have good job security. They're sketchy companies, like you just said, or it's not even the company. It's like someone just kind of getting you in to recruit to talk to you, and it's not helpful. So for so many reasons, I would say it's just the overall message here is that LinkedIn and these remote job boards, while they like almost deceivingly feel helpful, they're not. But that's where we know. I was talking to one of my clients the other day, and she said, word for word, she's like, LinkedIn literally, it's torturing me. And I was like, get off of it, right? We'll help you find another way. And we'll talk about a solution at the end that can help with this. But yeah, that's a huge one. And we just find it's almost like let's say you listen to this podcast, you find out about Nomad Life. You're like, yes, I'm going to find that remote job. It's going to let me travel. It's going to be awesome. And then you start this search, and it's just like, it feels defeating. And you're like, well, how am I ever going to find anything? Like I'm just going through all this and it's not helping. And so you give up. And that's what we've seen a lot with, people who come to us and haven't yet found that job. And we'll talk about how to help. So I would say, anything else with number one? I feel like it's a huge one. It's one that we're really passionate about.
Yeah. There's a lot of problems with just basically it's LinkedIn. Like you said, I think fool's gold. It's very tricky because a lot of opportunities show up, and you see these really nice, clean looking filtering system. You're like, oh, this is exactly for me. Right. But maybe 1 in 20 of those are for you.
Yeah, it's like the Wild West. And I will say, I want to give LinkedIn a little bit of a positivity here, not for this part of it. I think LinkedIn can be really helpful when it's used almost as it was originally created for, which is connecting with people in your network, seeing connection, like friends of friends or people, those second and third connections that you can directly reach out to connect and network and find jobs. Like that's where I think LinkedIn is beautiful, and I use it a lot for that, and I help clients with that. But as its job search function to find those jobs, to find those companies that you even want to connect with and reach out to, it's a nightmare, like plain and simple. So that's number one. Should we move on to number two?
Yeah, what do you got? We're going to take a quick pause right there to tell you about our remote travel jobs daily. Are you currently looking for a job that's going to allow you to become a digital nomad and work and travel around the world? Well, we've got exactly what you're looking for. Every week, as part of our free plan, we handpick 2 jobs that are perfect for becoming a digital nomad that will allow you to work and travel around the world while you're doing it. That's 2 jobs per week for free. We also have a premium plan in which we send out 2 handpicked jobs that are also perfect for becoming a digital nomad every single day, Monday through Friday. So that's 40 handpicked jobs by us that are ideal for becoming a digital nomad. So make sure you take a look at these 2 plans. It is beachcommute.com/travel jobs. That's beachcommute.com/travel jobs. All the details will be there.
Okay, number 2, this is one I hear a lot, and this comes from if you are someone who is fairly established in your career, anywhere from 5, 10, 15, 20, 30 years, call it, working in a career where you've like, okay, you know what? I've worked hard. I've worked my ass off. I've put in the time. I've increasing my salary over the years, and I don't want to take a job, like a huge pay cut. So a lot of people assume that when they get these remote jobs, that you're going to have to, take half your salary, or it's going to be a salary that won't let you pay your mortgage at home if you want to keep your house while you figure things out to start or to travel, or even just afford the lifestyle that you're used to. That's a big one that so many of our clients, so many beach commuters have said. And so I think a lot of that problem is when you find those seemingly like fully remote travel jobs, there's this connotation that like, oh, I'm not even going to look because I couldn't keep making my salary and find a remote job that pays me that much while I travel. So I can get into sort of the reasons for this, but any just initial thoughts on that, Jeff?
Yeah, I can completely empathize with people that are feeling that way. Because a lot of times, as you talk to our audience, you assume you have to drop everything and start over. And I would not want to. I'm 15 years into a marketing career. I don't want, if pretend marketing wasn't a transferable skill into digital, being like a digital nomad, I wouldn't want to start fresh and build a whole new skill set at almost 40 years old. So I can completely get that pain point for people. Yeah. So that's just my perspective. Yeah. Go ahead and.
Yes. So I'll say there's sort of two parts to this. One is sort of like I said at the beginning, where I'm like, you can find a remote job, plain and simple, period, like foot down. The same goes for this. I think if you can just start with the idea that salaries that you want do exist in remote jobs that let you travel. So we've talked about this some on some previous episodes. If Jeff and I think of our network of like real friends that we have traveled the world with for the last 5, 6, 7 years, like just the real people working for employees, progressing in their careers, working for these companies, most of them are making over 100K or more. There's some that are not, and they probably wouldn't be even if they were just living in the US. Like they're pursuing something different. It's not their priority. They're not seeking, that big career progression. But for the people who care, and that's something that they are looking into and want for their life, I would say we have so many friends who make great salaries and so many clients who I've worked with and who've got jobs like this that let you travel. So it's really about finding the right companies and finding those progressive companies that allow you to travel. But the fear that I heard a lot, like we've been inside one of our group programs lately, there's so many cool companies that we share and we're finding for these people that are smaller companies. So there's something, there's like this disconnect in people's minds where it's like, if it's not a huge prestigious company, if it's not Google, if it's not LinkedIn, if it's not Salesforce, if it's not this huge company that's like a brand name that everyone knows, like they're never going to pay me well enough is sort of this mindset that people have. But we have so many cool companies that we found that maybe you've never heard of, but they're going to be the ones that are more likely to be more progressive, to let you travel, to give you this freedom. But just because you haven't heard of them, a lot of people say, oh, like they're never going to be able to pay me well enough. They're never going to like allow that career progression. But there are so many companies that do. So any thoughts if you were to kind of put yourself in those shoes, Jeff, like does that resonate with you?
Yeah, I've actually seen the opposite be a problem. The people that I talk to that work at large organizations it's much, much harder to steer a very large organization in a new direction. Because the reason you already mentioned earlier, they haven't figured it out yet. Or they're old school and they just don't believe in it. Right? And the bigger they are, typically the more, from what I've seen, restrictive they are with
100%.
The time zones people work from, let alone the countries people work from. Calling people back to office are typically the larger organization, the return to office trend. So it's almost like you have to rewire, you have to break what you traditionally thought about bigger organizations being quote unquote better companies to work for, because that is not necessarily true. And as you were talking, I was curious, so I just popped on LinkedIn and was seeing, sometimes you'll see pay ranges, and I saw one that was this tiny organization that was paying like a 170 to 190,000 starting. Never heard of it. It's like a 25-person organization. They're out there. It was located U.S. only, of course. Right. You couldn't work abroad. You couldn't be a digital nomad. But these,
for that
these
one that you're particularly looking at, but you can, and many do let you.
And many, exactly. Thank you. But it's an interesting thing when you think that bigger companies mean more pay, it means more stable, and all of those things. And that's, in my experience, that has not been true at all.
No.
And almost across every one of those categories, it's not true.
And if you're listening, I would challenge you as a coach to say, if you were my client and you came to me, I would ask you, like, what's more important, the prestige and the brand name of this company that you are working for, this giant organization that won't let you travel, or would you rather make the exact same amount or more, but let's just call it apples to apples for a second. Would you rather make the exact same salary at a company maybe you've never heard of, maybe your friends have never heard of, but once you research, you find out there's this really cool culture, it's awesome people, they give you true freedom to travel anywhere in the world while you're working? Which do you choose? And at least I know this is a very I get like goosebumps talking about it, because I know if I put myself back in the shoes of my college self, for example, it felt really important. Like we had all these companies who would come to our campus to recruit, and we wanted, it's like the better the name brand, like the more, I don't know, it's that prestige. It's your ego. You feel good. Like I want to work for Google. I work for Pepsi. But we had those big like American Express or Procter and Gamble. Like for me, I was in the marketing world, but there was like these huge companies, and it felt like, oh wow, like you're special. Like you got this cool job. Like, you know, it's that title. It's like having the Ferrari that you like feel cooler because you have a cool car, but like you're miserable in it. So again, if this is you, we send out, so we'll talk about like we find our job, what we do day in and day out is find all of these amazing, cool companies that genuinely give you the freedom to travel, but they might not be that giant company you've heard of. It might have to put that like ego aside for a second to talk about prestige. But again, my question to you is like, is that worth the freedom to travel? And I wish I had one up in front of me because, you know, I always butcher quotes. This isn't quite a quote, but there's a lot of Instagram posts I've been seeing lately that basically say like the new rich is, you know, freedom to travel, freedom to have slow mornings, freedom to wake up where you want, freedom. And I'm going to add on. But for us, if I think about what I love about digital nomad life, it's like the freedom to be, whether it's home with my family or across the world, like I have the freedom to be anywhere I want at any given time. I have the freedom to explore new countries, the freedom to explore, have new experience in places and cultures. And to me now, if you'd asked my 22-year-old self, I've been like, I didn't even know this was a possibility, but like that name brand prestige that I thought was so important, like that mattered to me. And now it's taken me a few years, some wisdom to find out that freedom is far more important to me. If you're listening, I'm guessing it's probably more important to you, but it's important to ask yourself. And if you're saying, I'd rather work for the prestige and not travel, then that's up to you. But yeah, any thoughts on that, Jeff?
Yeah, it's just such a short-term win when you have that prestige. It's the same thing as like a title or going to a fancy college. It's only good for when you introduce yourself, when you give yourself like an ego boost. And it's kind of obnoxious, really. Like when you're on the receiving side of it. I went to Stanford. It's like, are you better than me already? Like I just met you. Like I don't give a shit. Like it doesn't. And beyond that, there's no value to it because you're living your life, and it's not. And if it's not measuring up to how you want to live your life, what does that even matter? It doesn't. It really doesn't matter. It's the day-to-day stuff that actually matters. It's the 40 hours a week beyond that. I work at Pepsi statement that really matters to you, and that's what we're getting into. Yeah,
for sure. So I would say to wrap up this point, to say there are salaries like you can find 100,000, 150,000, 200, 250,000, 300,000. Like there are anything that you can find in a, you know, quote office job, you can find the same thing in these types of careers that you're looking at to keep progressing while you travel. So I think it's an important like mindset switch to have for you so that you're even willing to continue finding these companies, to look at them, to share, to expand your mind about the possibilities, because it's possible for you, but you might have to think a little differently.
Okay, so we're to our last bullet point. What's that one?
Yeah, so number 3 is that often the way that you might be looking for these remote jobs, let's say you're like, all right, I'm going to do it. I'm going to find the nomad life. I'm going to find that remote job. And you start, it's kind of tags on to number 1, but you start looking on LinkedIn or you start looking at those job boards, and it takes so much time to weed through the useless stuff that you just sort of give up. So at first it's like you start off with that excitement and you put in the hours and you're like, yes, this is fun. There's all these new jobs, and you start like slowly deflating because it's like, okay, I haven't actually found anything that truly lets me travel. I've just looked at 100 jobs. My brain is tired. I don't want to do this anymore. I hate this. I'm never going to find it, right? It just keeps going on and on and on. And so eventually you just stop looking because it's almost like you lose faith because you're not finding the right opportunities. And if you were to do this yourself, and we have experts that this is their full-time job, like we spend our days at Beach Commute finding these cool remote companies, scrolling through and like removing all the useless things just to find you and bring you the best of the best truly remote companies that let you travel with active job postings. But if you're, the normal human who has a full-time job, maybe you even have kids, maybe you have a family, maybe you're taking care of something, who knows, you're stressed. Like, the last thing you want to do at the end of your day is spend 4 more hours scrolling through LinkedIn and job boards to find those little needle in the haystack jobs. And so again, ultimately you just give up. And that's a big reason why people aren't finding the jobs that would, like, why you're not finding one that would be a good fit for you, because it takes too much time and you give up before you found it.
It's a whole nother job on top of your job,
Yeah.
really, when you look at it. I was, again, putting myself in our audience's shoes and doing it. It's like, oh my God, I just spent half an hour on here and I found nothing that I would even apply for.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I'm probably not alone in this, but one of the things I've always struggled with is the paradox of choice. And the paradox of choice is when you're given too many options, it's very, very difficult to home in on just the few things. You know, if you give somebody a selection of 1,000 things, they're going to choose none of those things.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm very much a victim of this. If I have too many options, it's way, way, way too difficult to select a few options. And all the things that you've talked about in the past are that you can't shoot off 1,000 resumes. You'll get 0 responses.
Yeah.
You need to home in on just a couple things, and you need to do a really good job of finding the people to talk to at that company, writing very customized outreach, and doing all the things that you need to do, doing your due diligence to get that job. And you can't do that if you're just firing out a resume to 1,000 different choices, which feels productive. It feels like you're doing a lot because you're doing a lot in volume, but you're doing nothing in quality. So that's why you're not getting any responses to it.
Yeah.
So
100%.
like, what's a better way to approach job searching is have a couple really good options that you could super focus in on instead of thousands of options that may or may not be good, or you may just want to fire off your resume to. You know, it's kind of like when you do something, you want to do a really, really good job at 1 or 2 things instead of a really mediocre job at thousands of things, right?
Yeah. And to go back to that paradox of choice, I've talked to you and Diego a lot about this because it's one of my favorite sort of like marketing stats, but there's a cool, I think it really hits home this example of when you look at LinkedIn or you look at job boards and you have too many choices where it just is like overwhelm and you sort of shut down. There's a study that was done, and this was for marketing purposes, but it was in a grocery store, and they were selling just as a
right?
jam. Yeah, I love this one. They were selling these jams, and so the thought was like, if we have, I think it was like 21 or 23 different jams, like of all the different flavors. Theoretically, it should be like, there's a flavor in there that someone's gonna love, right? If they give them all these options, they'll have the one for them. And so they did that test, and then they did a test where they had only 3 flavors of jams that they would sell to people walking by, thinking like, definitely with the 21 jams, like they'll buy more. And what happened was the jams that were only 3 options sold so much more because there was too many choices where people had all the ones that they just got overwhelmed and left. They were like, I can't even make a choice.
Stressful.
Maybe I want that one. Maybe this one's better. It's like we have like all those ice cream flavors. It's like, I don't know. I need to taste them all. So when you have fewer choices, and we'll talk about a way that we help you do this, it's actually easier because you don't have to, like, your brain won't shut down from the overwhelm of choice. And that's what's happening when it takes too much time. You're not finding quality things. Maybe the jobs, it like feels frustrating. A lot of times they expire on those job listings because they're not actually removed. So even if you find something, you click through and you're like, yes, and you realize the job's already been filled, or you submit your application before you even know that it's been taken down. It's a nightmare, and there's too many choices. So yeah, that is number 3 in a nutshell, and it's a big one.
Yeah, actually, I just pulled up that study. It says, what happens is too much choice paralyzes the consumer.
Yes.
And you can think about it
paralysis.
Yeah, exactly. If you think about immediately, I think of the last few restaurants that I went to, a 1-page menu versus a 6-page
it's so
menu.
overwhelming.
It just adds stress to your life. You're like, because in your head, what if I'm making the wrong decision?
Right.
And you're thinking, whereas if there's only one right decision on the page, like I only want fettuccine Alfredo, and there it is, you have no regret. And you've got no stress. It's like, that was the one I wanted. Whereas if there's 8 variations of it, you're like, oh my God, what if I'm going to get the wrong one? This is terrifying.
So with that, I know we've talked about these. If you guys have a second, we'd love to actually talk about, I guess, an updated version of a membership that we offer that we've switched up a little bit. We're super excited about, that really addresses each of these. So it's called Digital Nomad Jobs Daily. And what we do is we send you an email each day, Monday through Friday, with 2 companies, and only 2 companies. It talks about this paradox of choice, so you don't have to have an overwhelm of 100,000 things to choose from every day. But 2 companies that day that are well vetted, that our team has literally scoured the globe for, has researched, has vetted to know that it's not sketchy. If there's Glassdoor ratings, that we have eliminated the bad ones. They are companies that literally, say on their website or talk about and promote, like, we want to let you travel. Like, we let you work from anywhere. We already have employees who are living and traveling and working this way. And they're cool companies. They're really cool companies that you might not have found everywhere. And the 2 that we send have multiple job listings that they're hiring for in that moment. So you know that they're active. They're listed on their company. You know that they'll actually let you travel. And the salary ranges are usually anywhere from, call it that $60K to $250K range on average. So you're going to find good quality companies, good quality jobs, and the cultures are cool. Like, the jobs that we find, I love sending out these descriptions because they're exciting. I'm like, they're just such fun, kind of hip cultures. And I think if you think about the type of company that is evolved enough to prioritize digital nomad life, to prioritize this freedom of travel, they're probably pretty cool, forward-thinking people as well. Not only the people who started the company and kind of control that culture, but the people who are choosing to work there as well. So we can get into some more details too, but anything to add, Jeff, like about the membership or anything that it kind of helps with?
I think the best part about it is it's the best 2 options of any given day.
Yes.
So it's fluid. It's not, these are the best 2 remote companies.
Right.
These are the best 2 remote companies today because
that are
we did the research
today.
last night through this morning. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So these are the ones that are fresh as of now, the best options out there. So you could spend those 4 hours at night and find those 2 companies through 12 remote job boards and, just banging your head against the wall, or just, you let us do it for you and just know these are the best 2 of the day. Yeah. And these are the current job listings that are actually hiring right now. They're not expired, with, as often as possible, transparent salary ranges that you're going to find.
I love, I think a really fun part of it as well, and Jeff, you talked about this too, where you don't want to put your eggs in every single basket and apply to every single company and every single job. But the cool thing is it's really bite-sized. So each day you can be like, you'll know when that moment comes where you're like, this is the company I've been waiting for. Like, this is the job posting I've been waiting for. And so many people who are part of the membership will write us in and say, do you know anyone? I loved this one today. And it's so fun because it's something that they've never thought of, they've never heard of. And it's almost like you don't even know what you're looking for until it comes to you in these emails. And it's just so fun when we see the right company and the right job match with the right person. And you might open 6 emails and be like, that's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. I kind of see that. And then on that 7th day or whatever day it comes, it's just so exciting because you don't know what day it'll be, but it's like, this is the one I've been waiting for. And then you can take the time to reach out to people at that company, market, follow the jobs that they're posting. It's part of it is just a really cool way to get exposed to really genuinely awesome remote companies that let people travel that you would never otherwise find on your own. And I think that's a big message that we hear from a lot of our members and people who we've worked with through this type of membership is that they're like, I would have never, I've been looking on LinkedIn for 2 years trying to find a remote job. I've been looking on all, the job boards or wherever, and you guys are finding these jobs that I couldn't find anywhere else. And then that perfect one hits. So I think that's what's so exciting about having these little bite-sized choices where you just kind of watch in the day where it's yes, this is it. And it happens. It's not like it's only once in a blue moon. It's it'll keep happening, but they're places and companies you likely wouldn't have discovered on your own.
The beauty of it is just knowing that those are the best 2 available that day. And if that doesn't click with you that day, there's 2 more coming tomorrow.
Yeah.
And then 2 more the next day, right? So it's just all right, today's a pass for me, and that's fine. Yeah. And then maybe tomorrow's a hit, maybe the next day is a hit. But there's always 2 more coming. So that's going to hit
that.
something's going to land in your wheelhouse in one of these email alerts.
100%. So I would say if you're listening, whether you've been thinking maybe you just found this podcast today, you just found us and it's a new idea that you can actually work remotely and travel the world anywhere you want to go, or maybe you've been searching for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, dreaming about it and not finding that right option, whichever one you are. If you are interested in this membership, we would love for you to join us. But if you want to check out more info, you can go to beachcommute.com/nomadjobs. To sign up to join us. And again, you'll get those daily emails every Monday through Friday. They're really fun. Like, we write up fun little descriptions so you don't have to spend your whole life like clicking through and reading about the company. Like, we do a cool little fun write-up so you know exactly what it is, what that company is about, what their culture, what their style is, and the remote jobs right there that they're hiring for that day, as Jeff said, is so important. So yeah, beachcommute.com/nomadjobs is the place to go to join. Any other thoughts, closing words on this topic or the membership? I know Jeff and I are so passionate about this. Like, we have a lot of thoughts about just helping you find remote work and the people who trick you. So yeah, any closing words, Jeff?
I had to make sure that I reined myself in before I even started this, because I could just go down a path where I'm talking about companies that are, not so savory, that I'm not so crazy about return to office stuff. So I'm not gonna go down that path. But if you do have any questions about how any of this works or anything else, just write us in hello@beachcommute.com.
Yeah.
That's hello@beachcommute.com. Send us an email and we'll get back to you within about 24 hours or so.
Yeah, perfect. And we'll put the link to, again, beachcommute.com/nomadjob. So we'll put that link
It's in the show notes. Yeah.
The show notes as well. And I think, Jeff, more importantly, forevermore, I'm going to say this company is not savory enough for me.
You never heard that one before? Oh, that's not a savory type of person.
I've never thought about that as a person or a company.
Oh, yeah.
That's amazing. All right. So only savory companies, is that what we want to say? That's their new tagline.
Savory companies.
Only savory companies that let you travel. Done. We love it. But yeah, write us in. We love to hear from you. If you have any questions, if you feel like you have questions about whether or not the membership is right for you, we're happy to answer. And other than that, my big takeaway is you can find a remote job. Let us help you. And you can find one that lets you keep moving up and forward in your career with the salary you want. You can keep saving for the future. All of those fears you have, it's possible. And one last little one, because this is like a mental fear that people have. So many people think like, my job isn't as secure when it's remote, or like these smaller companies, it's not as secure. And I will just say they're equally secure as any company you would work for, in person, as a lot of those big companies. We've seen so many layoffs like recently with, Google, with Spotify, with like some of the biggest companies that feel so safe. Like, layoffs are going to happen whether you're traveling or not, whether you're at a big company or a small company. So my question to you is, do you want the freedom to travel? And if so, like, go pursue this. Give yourself a little, a couple months runway at minimum of salary so that you don't, like, just, if something does happen, no matter what. And you should have that in your normal life too. But you can do this. It can be just as secure as any other job you would have not traveling. So why not have the freedom to travel the world too? That's my...
And with that, thanks for listening, and we will see you again next week.